So today we get one of Jesus' greatest hits. This parable is the parable of the prodigal son, is what it would be listed as, like a track on the back of the CD, if we still remember what those are. On the back of the CD case. But I think that name is a bit wrong. It keeps the focus on the younger son, much like the father, completely focused on one child while ignoring the other. And so I thought really hard about it, and I came up with, I think, is a better name. I think we should call this parable the parable of Family Dynamics 101. We agree? Good. Because it is. It's this great example of classic family drama. You have a parent, in this case a father, you have a parent and two kids. The older kid has taken it upon himself, has learned somewhere, has adopted the philosophy that I will get love and acceptance and belonging if I work really hard and I do it all right and I achieve a lot and I am excellent. Doesn't sound like any of our older siblings, right? And then the younger son, who has to live in the shadow of this older son who's doing everything right and is trying to be the best, wants to get out of the shadow and live his own life, take half of the inheritance or his portion of the inheritance and go and form a life for himself. He's trying. One might imagine that the reason he wants to leave is because he can't deal with this older brother who's got to always be right. But then, as the younger child, so just so you know, in this story, I am the older child. I have two younger sisters. I am the eldest. Those younger ones, the baby of the family, they sure do seem to get a lot of lucky breaks, don't they? They ask for whatever they want. Dad gives it to them. Oh my God. And then you got a father in the middle who's just he's stuck in that role of being the savior. He's just trying to keep both kids happy, trying to save them, trying to hold this family together, and insisting that we have a happy and together family. Doesn't sound like any of our parents, right? Can you relate to this story? Do you know these characters? The older sibling, the younger one, dad or mom stuck in the middle. And as an example of family dynamics, one of the things that comes out to me as I reflect on family dynamics, this parable, is this really important deep secret about human beings. Are you ready for the deep secret about human beings? One of them. The deep secret about us. None of us want to be wrong. None of us want to ever be wrong. And we fight so hard to never be proven wrong, but rather to be right. We see that in the story. The younger son wanders away. And have you ever wondered why it took him so long to come home? It was probably because he didn't want to admit to everyone that he was wrong. The younger son probably did not envision, when he asked for this inheritance, that he was going to waste it all, be stuck in a famine, and then be taking care of pigs and eating from pods, or not eating from the pods, but you get the image. He didn't expect, when he's asking for this inheritance, to be left destitute. He did it perhaps to build his own life, to work on some project, to advance his own life independent from his family, and it didn't go very well. Some of that is his own fault. Some of that is his own responsibility. Some of that is that there was a famine in the land, something he had no control or power over. But despite whatever variety of variables, to come home is to admit that he couldn't do it, that he failed, and that he was wrong. And so sometimes we get so stuck in being right and never admitting that we're wrong that we'd rather be feeding pigs than go home and confront our family. And we see that really obviously in the older son, the being stuck and being right. He's standing out there, there's this party happening, and gosh darn it, I'm not going to go in because my dad didn't even give me a goat to party with my friends. So stuck in that notion of the way he's lived his life by being excellent, going above and beyond, being silent about what he really needs, and self-sacrificing, always putting the family first. It is too painful to admit that there is some wrongness in that life plan. That he insists upon being right. And he has that great line. It's not actually a great line, but it's so human that I relish in it, where he says, "Your son," right? As if it's not his own brother. We can get like that. We can get so stuck, so committed to I'm right and this other person is wrong, that we will fight tooth and nail to prove it, even when we're kind of being childish. And it happens. It happens. We're talking in the family system, but I hope you can, and that's appropriate. That happens a lot in families. But this also happens with friends, with coworkers. And I hope you can hear how it happens out there in the chaotic world. I'm so committed to being right, and I have no interest in being wrong. And so there's this, I think what Jesus is trying to show us, one of the many things, Jesus is trying to show us in this parable is that if we want to resolve any of those kinds of conflicts, if we want to get out of this constant struggle of who's right and who's wrong, we have to put reconciliation above winning. Ooh, that's hard. We have to put reconciliation and the relationship above and before the urge to win. And that is so hard, because guess what? None of us like to lose. None of us. We don't like losing. Losing feels like we're not going to get the precious thing we want, that we're not going to get our needs met, that we're going to lose. And we're so scared of losing that we insist on chasing after winning. But Jesus is inviting us in this parable that if we want these kinds of conflicts, these kinds of family spats, but also community spats, and world conflicts to come to an end, we have to put that desire for relationship and reconciliation first and foremost, and put winning second. Now, some of you hearing this sermon may be getting a little nervous at this point. I was too. So let me be clear. Putting reconciliation first above winning does not mean we have to be doormats. Whole and complete relationships require truth-telling and healthy boundaries. And we see several times throughout the Gospels Jesus speaking uncomfortable truths, things that are gonna make the other person mad. But he says them anyway because they are the truth. And we see again and again, and it was my spiritual director that helped me to finally really see it. Again and again, Jesus, there's always these one-line sentences. Jesus went away into the wilderness by himself. And then the next, half the sentence is, and then everyone came and found him. But, there was that span. We don't always know how long that span is. But there was that span where Jesus himself takes time to remove himself, to set boundaries, to say, I need my own space. So please don't hear me wrong, and please don't preach it wrong. Healthy, whole relationships need truth-telling and healthy boundaries. But this parable today, where we're focusing on today, is the fact that for even there to be a whole and reconciled relationship, you have to at least show up to it. That's the other half of it, right? You can have truth-telling and healthy boundaries, but to even have a chance at having a reconciled and whole relationship, you've got to at least show up to it. I've done my best to try to describe this, and so to close, I'm going to turn to someone else. Dr. Amy Jill Levine. If you don't know Dr. Amy Jill Levine, she is a Jewish woman, steeped in Jewish tradition, but teaches at Vanderbilt Divinity School, teaches in a Christian seminary, and teaches New Testament. And so she is a Jewish woman who likes to remind us that Jesus was Jewish and is talking to predominantly Jewish people. And so if we have any hope of really understanding the gospel, we've got to understand it in light of the Jewish tradition and Jewish culture that's happening in the stories. Or, as she puts it better than me, again, she self-described, quote, Yankee Jewish feminist who teaches in a predominantly Christian divinity school in the buckle of the Bible Belt. So, that's Amy Jill Levine, and she was talking about this parable and said this. Don't wait until you receive an apology. You may never get one. Don't wait until you can muster the ability to forgive. You may never find it. Don't stew in your sense of being ignored, for there is nothing that can be done to retrieve the past. Instead, go have lunch. Go celebrate and invite others to join you. If the repenting and the forgiving come later, so much the better. And if not, you still will have done what is necessary. You will have begun a process that might lead to reconciliation. You will have opened a second chance for wholeness. Take advantage of resurrection. It is unlikely to happen twice.